New revelations in the investigation into the missing Malaysian Airlines plane a day after the Prime Minister confirmed that deliberate action was involved in diverting the craft. The search for MH370 has also honed in on two key tasks: collecting information on everyone on board and managing the assets of more countries in the vastly expanded search area.
In what could be another twist to the search for MH370, Malaysia's acting Transport Minister Hishammuddin Hussein has revealed new details on the plane's communications system. The Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, or ACARS, relays in-flight data. Answering a question at a media conference, he says it was switched off before the last communication from the pilot that suggested everything was normal on board.
Was the ACARS data system pulled or disabled before the pilot said, all right, good night to Malaysia Air Traffic Control, or was it disabled afterwards?
The answer to the first question, yes, it was disabled before.
The investigation is also refocusing to look at the passengers, crew and even ground staff and engineers. Malaysia is still waiting for some countries to share background information on their citizens. Mr. Hishammuddin confirmed police searched the homes of the pilot and co-pilot.
Officers from the Royal Malaysian Police visited the home of the pilot. They spoke to family members of the pilot, and experts are examining the pilot's flight simulator. The police also visited the home of the co-pilot. According to Malaysian Airlines, the pilot and co-pilot did not ask to fly together on MH370.
The number of countries searching for the missing plane has nearly doubled in a vast area of land and ocean.
The search area has been significantly expanded, and the nature of the search has changed. From focusing mainly on shallow seas, we are now looking at large tracts of land, crossing 11 countries, as well as deep and remote oceans. The number of countries involved in the search and rescue operation has increased from 14 to 25, which brings new challenges of coordination and diplomacy.
Two new possible flight corridors have been identified from the plane's last known location over the Strait of Malacca. Malaysia has asked for official assistance from all countries involved in the revised search. Authorities held a briefing with diplomats from more than 20 countries on how best to deploy their assets along the corridors. Assistance will include satellite data and analysis, radar data, maritime and air deployment, among others. There's been no sign of the Malaysia Airlines plane, which disappeared more than a week ago during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing.
Mr. Hishammuddin also refuted speculation surrounding the missing plane, including claims that it had landed at a military base in the Indian Ocean. He also debunked rumours that any party had tried to seek any ransom at all.
To make any other demands over MH370?
No, there's not. And that makes it very difficult for us to verify whether it's a hijacking or a terrorist act.
Channel News Asia's Malaysia Bureau Chief tells us what else authorities have learnt today.
I've spoken with the Chinese ambassador and said that the Chinese national from Xinjiang, the Uyghur, has no background, any terror links at all. And he said that he's an award-winning painter and artist, and he has nothing to do with terror activities or not a terrorist. Now, apart from that, they are also looking to the engineers, the ground crew, every single one of them that had any contact at all with the plane before the flight. Also checking the cargo manifest, and it's been found that none of the cargo manifests were met. The plane wasn't carrying anything that is hazardous.
The Chinese state media is spearheading fresh criticism of Malaysia's handling of the crisis. Xinhua News Agency ran a scathing editorial saying Malaysia squandered precious time and resources by releasing vital information a full week after the plane vanished. And it suggested that Malaysian officials were guilty of what it called an intolerable dereliction of duty.
Families continue to wait for information on just where the plane carrying their loved ones is. And day 9 of the wait is made worse as they can no longer get updates from Malaysia Airlines. That's because the case of the missing plane has now been deemed a criminal investigation, and so the airline can no longer comment. But Malaysia Airlines has given Chinese family members 3 options. Continue staying at Lido Hotel here in Beijing, fly to Kuala Lumpur for first-hand information, or go home to await news. Accommodation and other expenses during the stay would continue to be borne by Malaysia Airlines. Most families I spoke to say they plan to continue staying here at the hotel in Beijing. Many had rushed down to the Chinese capital from their hometowns in other parts of China, such as Hebei and Shandong. They don't know what else they can do but continue to wait. And as the wait lengthens and frustration grows, security at the hotel has been significantly tightened. A security checkpoint has been set up in front of the hotel here for the first time since families gathered here. Christine Lim, Channel News Asia, Beijing.
Now, psychologists say family members of the missing passengers are struggling with what's known as ambiguous grief as they lack information on what happened to the plane.
Many of them will be not getting enough sleep. They'll be wanting to travel to Malaysia, or they'll be wanting to get information from the authorities. Right. So it helps that if the authorities or the airline assigns a point-man, a person who can be like a concierge and help them be the go-between guy between the authorities and the family. I think that's a model which some relief organizations use to manage disaster situations like this.
Most people can handle trauma and loss like this, and even ambiguous loss. And it's found that the resilience that those people have has to do with how well they can accept ambiguity in their life.